大家好，欢迎来到我的频道。Welcome back to Chinese with Rida. Today we are entering the second part of lesson 8. Now let's first look at the new words of text 2. First word, zai, zai. Next word, 学校, 学校, school. Next word, 书店, 书店, bookstore. We explained before that dian is the word for store. So any kind of store, we just have to add the thing that they sell at first and then add dian. Next, qian, front or in front of, nang, can or be able to, dao, arrive or reach, wu fen, lunch. We learned the word of chonggu, which is noon in lesson 7. So we take the u of chonggu and we put it with fen, which means meal or food, and we get lunch meal of the noon, u fen. Alright, now let's look at the text 2. 课文二 Textbook text 2. 我们在哪儿见呢？在学校书店前见吧。好的，下午2点你能到吗？我能到。我在学校吃午饭。跟我读。我们在哪儿见呢？在学校书店前见吧。好的，下午2点你能到吗？我能到。我在学校吃午饭。Now you have the complete conversation. If you have any further questions, please leave it in the comments. Let's dive into the new words of last text. First word, fun, meal. We actually have talked about fun a lot before. So we learned zo fun, which means to cook, and we learned u fun, which means lunch. Next word, da, big, and the opposite of big is small. We have already learned it, which is xiao, means small or little. Next word, 病人, patient, 病人. So the two hanzi, the first hanzi, 病, means ill, sick or disease, and the next hanzi, 人, means person or human. So 病人 means patient. Next word, 多, many or how much. Next word, 医生, doctor, and we have learned it before, 医院, which means hospital. Next word, 李医生, Li doctor. This is not really a new word. It's just Li, the surname, plus Yisheng, the profession of Li Yisheng, of Dr. Li. So for doctor, first is the family name, then the profession as a respectful way to call someone. So Li Yisheng is Dr. Li in the text. We will also see that the elder doctors call the younger doctors as Xiao Li, literally the small Li. It's also a very common way for people older than you or more experienced than you in China to call you by Xiao plus your family name as an informal way to call you, especially between co-workers. Now the last word, gongzuo. Gongzuo, work or job. Great. Now let's look at the text 3. 课文3 Textbook text 3. 小李还没吃饭呢，没吃呢。大医生病人多，医生非常忙。是的，我爸爸也在医院工作，他也非常忙。你家有2个医生，对。跟我读 ，read after me。小李还没吃饭呢，没吃呢。大医院病人多，医生非常忙。是的，我爸爸也在医院工作，他也非常忙。你家有2个医生，对。Wonderful job, guys. In our previous lesson, we studied the grammar points zai and nang. In today's lesson, we are going to explore some additional useful uses for using these words naturally in everyday Chinese and also the difference between nang and hui. The first language point is the preposition zai. The preposition zai combine with words or phrases that indicate a location or place. Now we learn something new about Zai, and that is the structure. We place it before the actual verb of the sentence to show that we do something in some place where does the action takes place. So now let's look at some examples. The first example, 我在学校吃午饭. Okay, so if we count 在 as verb, actually in this sentence there are two verbs. 在学校, the first verb is to be at school, and the second verb is 吃午饭, to have lunch. But here actually 在学校 is not the actual verb, it's only the expression of the place where does the action like eating lunch take place. So look at the structure. 我在学校吃午饭. Here, 在学校, the location is placed before 吃午饭. 吃午饭 is the verb here. So here it is different from English. In English, we place the location where the action takes place before the word of the action. Now the next example. 他爸爸在医院工作. His father works in a hospital. Also, 在医院 in a hospital before 工作 work. Now the last example. 你在哪儿买菜? Where do you buy vegetables? Here is a very useful expression 在哪儿. 在哪儿, if you want to ask someone where does she or he do something, where does the action takes place, we will have to use 在哪儿. Alright, now take it as 在. Let's move on the next word we are going to learn is 能源动词, modal verb 能. The modal verb 能 is placed before the verb to indicate the ability, the condition, or the possibility of doing something. So 能 can be easily translated into can or be able to, and we will probably remember that we have seen a word before which is 会, which also means can or be able to. But what's the difference between 能 and 会? Actually, there is a very important difference between them. 会 is to be placed before a verb that expresses a skill you actually acquire through learning. So, for example, speak Chinese, play the piano, or to swim. So, rather than saying we can or we are able to, if we say we know how to do something like how to play the piano or how to swim, it would be better to explain 会, but 能 is much more general. For example, 下午2点你能到吗? Can you arrive at 2 p.m.? Here, arriving at 2 p.m. is definitely not something you have to acquire through learning. You just arrive because you have time and you can make it. So, it's just generally talking about the conditions. Next example, 爸爸能吃, father can go. Again, it's very general. It's just saying Papa can go. The last example, 我不能吃学校吃午饭. I can't go have the lunch at school. Also not something you have to acquire through learning. So these three examples, we cannot replace the 能 with 会. That's all for the today's lesson. See you in next lesson 9. 再见，加油！